Just keep paddling. Just keep paddling. Just keep paddling.
Hello, welcome back to 340 Paddler, and today we are talking about Lisbon Bottoms, the spooky place on the Missouri River, where the ghosties and the goblins and everything and Scott Mansker will hide and haunt you. But it's not really that bad. Let's take a look at what we're actually dealing with. Now we're starting with something that looks terribly complicated. What you're looking at is a Google Maps version, or Google Earth, version of the entrance to Lisbon Bottoms. We're about 11 miles downriver from Glasgow. It's probably been a pretty straight run. In fact, if memory serves, this is the only really big curve you're going to see between Glasgow and here is the curve that actually happens just off the map down that way. So you're going to come in, you're going to be river right, and you're probably going to be out here somewhere because, of course, you remember that the river does not require you to be up against the bank. In fact, you don't want to be there. That's very turbulent water. You want to be in lanes 2 or 4 as you bounce back and forth traveling downriver. You're going to come across this really noisy spot. It's going to sound different. Especially at night, it's going to sound different than anything else. During the day, you will see giant piles of wood, which is what you see in the satellite image here and here. That's because this chute they're looking at coming off of the Missouri River was created in 1993 during the Great Flood and may have actually been altered in the 2019 floods, although I haven't gotten any good information on that yet. As of 2018, these are giant piles of wood. They're going to tower above you. It's going to be really obvious that you don't really want to go that way. Don't get too close. You can actually get pinned into the wood. There is a kayak belonging to a previous 340 competitor, or two of them. I believe it was a tandem boat, which is still somewhere in that log pile. So stay away from it. You generally want to be a little bit offshore. Which is just fine, but you're going to hear that. That is the infamous Lisbon Bottoms chute. And just to give you an idea, if you were to get in here, you would have to get through this opening, around a big old sandbar, and through a series of further control structures. It's really not worth it. Even if you could get through it, it might cut 10 minutes off your time. And let me remind you, no one has ever won or done anything impressive in the 340 by 10 minutes. In the 340, by the time you get to St. Charles, everything is an hour, 2 hours. Don't take the chute. It won't save you any time. But it also gives you an idea of why people dislike Lisbon Bottoms or get a little bit scared about it. And the reason is you're coming through no matter what line you're taking, and imagine paddling through this. You're going to hear sound from this swing dike over here. You're going to hear sound from the chute. You're going to hear sound from this swing dike. So it's an unusual part of the river where you have control structures on both sides. Here's a map looking at the entrance to Lisbon. So here's the chute. We were up here before. And what's going to happen is basically you kick out to the outside. You're going to have control structures off and on both sides. By the way, the inside here, this is a big old sandbar. Sometimes it extends all the way around depending on the water depth. But you're going to be following around the outside. Everything is good. And then you start hearing things. What are you hearing? Well, here's the navigational chart for Lisbon Bottoms. And I apologize, it's not quite lined up perfectly, but I think it's a decent job. And you'll see throughout Lisbon, you have control structures on both sides. In some cases, it looks very narrow. Keep in mind, the channel has to be wide enough for a barge to get through. We're talking something 100 feet wide. We are not talking about a narrow river. So don't worry about it. You will be fine. You will make it. Well, I mean, maybe you'll make. Sometimes we lose. It's not that important. Let's keep following along. So you've gone around the first curve. And of course, Lisbon is a giant S curve. You're going to do 2 180s as you go around it. As you come through here, you've passed the sandbars, etc. you're going to be coming through and you're going to start hearing things on both sides again. Well, again, you have structures on both sides. These ones aren't really entirely there. They are sometimes, but this is a giant sandbar as well. It actually follows all the way around, more or less there. But as you come around, you're going to suddenly find yourself up against a series of bluffs, and this will be fantastic. There's actually really fast water through this curve and through this curve, as well as when you exit. So you're going to be moving pretty quick. It's going to be pretty nice, beautiful bluffs. But again, you have control structures on both sides, things to watch for. You also have this odd chute, a second chute that runs through. The Army Corps of Engineers, I believe, put this one in for the sturgeon. Notice I said sturgeon and mispronounced kayak. That's because kayaks shouldn't go through it. It's narrow, it's dangerous, it's just not a good idea to even give it a second thought. So, as you move through, here's the upper chute, which we talked about. There's the lower chute, which I just mentioned, don't even try, because it's far more narrow. And here you can see Jamison Island at the tip. By the way, Jamison Island is a fantastic place to stop, but there is something to keep in mind. There are 340 fans that live somewhere up here. I've never met them. They might be vampires. I don't know. But what I do know is they will call out your boat number. They will look up your boat number with a pair of binoculars, and they will say, hey, congratulations, James from Virginia. They're cheering on everyone who comes through during the daylight. It's really cool. But let me remind you, there are people with binoculars. So please do not pee openly on Jamison Island because they will know. See, they can see you. They're haunting you. Moving on. We also have to deal with the exit from Lisbon Bottoms, which is actually pretty easy. Here we see it in high water conditions. Everything looks like you can easily get through. Trust me, you cannot. Because as you get closer, you see things like this. That is not a good situation. You do not want to try and go through that. But as you've come through, you will notice that it's a very nice area. I should also point out that the exit to Lisbon Bottoms down here and the entrance to Lisbon Bottoms up here tend to capture fog quite a bit for whatever reason. So be aware of that if you're coming through very, very late at night, that you might hit fog in Lisbon, in which case stop at one of the big sandbars, stop somewhere along the line, do not go barging through the fog. Hopefully, at the end of this, you'll realize that Lisbon Bottoms, in fact, is just another really stunning stretch of the Missouri River. You might not. If you're going too fast, you won't see it. So slow down. Take your time. Finish in 70 hours. It's fine. Leaving that aside, it should be fairly easy. And if you've been through it once or twice, you pretty much know what you're looking for. Just keep in mind that as you go through Lisbon, you're going to hear things from both sides. You're going to see control structures on both sides that won't necessarily make sense. Take your time. If necessary, simply keep to the center between them, and you will get through this like everyone else. This is 340 Paddler, hoping that you keep your paddle in the water.